Is Christmas a good time or a bad time for a type 2 diabetic? Let me explain. So Christmas is a time of celebration and festivities and joy and all of that good stuff. But unfortunately that comes at quite a price. And today I'm going to talk about some of those things that might be going on to harm a diabetic's blood sugar control, but also I'm going to cover some ways that you can try and avoid that. Now before I go any further, two things. First of all, it's way windier than I was expecting, so I'm really sorry if you can't hear what I'm saying because of the wind. And secondly, I've dragged a slightly sick teenage boy out on this walk and he is coughing a lot beside me. So if you hear someone coughing, can you do one on cue? There you go. Then I apologise for that too. Anyway, on with the video. So Christmas is a festive roller coaster. All kinds of things are going on. We eat too much, we drink too much, we don't sleep well, we're usually quite dehydrated, we're full of stress, and all of those things have a physiological effect on our bodies and sometimes an effect on our mental health as well. So how does that manifest in a type 2 diabetic? Well, it is worth pointing out that even someone who's not diabetic will have issues with this, and it has been shown that over the Christmas period non-diabetics actually have a baseline rise in their blood sugar, mainly because of these things that I've just mentioned. So as I said, how is that affecting a diabetic and what can they do about it? So the first problem that I see at this time of year, and something that happens to a lot of people but actually can harm a diabetic, is that they skip meals. And what I mean by that is they're usually saving their calories for the big Christmas meal. If you're fasting, your liver will produce glucose for you. That's a thing called gluconeogenesis. What it's doing is trickling glucose out into the bloodstream to give you some of that energy that you need. But if you're diabetic or if you suffer with insulin resistance, the handbrake for that system doesn't work very well. So over the course of the day you're trickling out all of this glucose, and then you have this high carbohydrate meal, and the glucose from the liver doesn't stop coming out. It keeps coming out into the bloodstream, plus you're getting all of this dietary glucose as well. So that's this double whammy which pushes the blood sugars up even further. And if you're a type 2 diabetic, that's a real problem because your blood sugars are now higher than they would have been in a normal day. So the solution to this is, if you are going to try and save your calories, before you have that big feast, try and have a high protein or a high fiber snack in advance of that. That will just slow down some of that glucose going into the bloodstream, and it means you're much less likely to have a high glucose spike as a result of that big Christmas dinner or Christmas lunch, depending on when you have it. The second pitfall is alcohol. Now, everyone likes to have a drink at Christmas and New Year, but it's not very good for you. So alcohol is actually part of the sugar family. And when you drink alcohol, of course, it's going to put your blood sugar up. And alcohol often is mixed with sugary cocktails or various beers and very strong wines nowadays, and those have even more sugar than they used to in days gone by. So blood sugar, of course, is going to go up. But alcohol has this other effect where actually it begins to drop your blood sugar afterwards when you stop drinking, and at night once you go to bed you are at risk of these drops in your blood sugar. Now that's particularly important if you're on certain medications which are also trying to drop your blood sugar, so you have to be very, very careful with alcohol if you're a diabetic. So best thing, try and avoid it. Now if you can't avoid it, then go with the dry wines. They've usually got less sugar, or have small amounts of spirits and take them with some kind of sugar-free mixer, whether that's soda water or a diet soda type drink instead, and that again minimizes the risk of you having these effects of your blood sugar going up and then falling back down. But ultimately the advice with alcohol is going to be small amounts only if you're diabetic. The other tidbit when it comes to alcohol, if you are going to drink it, please do not drink alcohol on an empty stomach. That just lets it go straight into your bloodstream very, very quickly and worsens all of those effects. The next piece of advice is movement. Movement is the secret weapon if you're a type 2 diabetic. Movement makes your muscles active, and when they get going, what they do is they act like a sponge for glucose, and they start sucking up glucose from the bloodstream and into the muscles. So everyone well, everyone generally should do some movement a lot more of the time than they already do. But if you're a diabetic, you should definitely be doing some type of movement, even walking for 10 or 15 minutes after your meals. That really promotes this uptake of glucose out of the bloodstream and into the muscles. And at this time of year, when you're having Christmas lunches and festive meals, maybe make it a tradition. Maybe make it a tradition that you have a festive dance, or you go for a Christmas walk or something like that that coincides with the end of a meal. Because falling down on the couch and vegging out for the rest of the evening actually isn't doing you any favours. In fact, it's doing the opposite. So diabetics should really do some movement after their meals. So next up is sleep and stress. Now these are very important, and people often don't realise the link they have with diabetes. If you get one bad night's sleep, your blood sugar will go up the next day, and that is regardless of what you ate. So when we are partying, when we're hanging out with people till late in the night, and then we try and sleep afterwards, we don't get good night's sleep, or we get a very short sleep, and that raises blood sugars. So you need to find a way to improve your sleep over the festive period. Try things like deep breathing exercises before bed, or a gentle walk before bed, or doing some kind of reading or other activity that's very quiet, and that might help get you in the right frame of mind for a good night's sleep, because poor sleep equals higher blood sugars. And I also mentioned stress. I find this is a very stressful time of year, and when I speak to patients and they come in and say, "Hey doc, I'm thinking of coming off my antidepressants," I say, no, don't do that, wait till the spring. Because this time of year is very stressful. There's all kinds of stresses on the body, on relationships, on finances, on our mind. And when you are stressed, the stress hormone cortisol goes up, and cortisol causes sugar production. So if you are diabetic, you need to spend this time of year trying to unwind and be less stressful instead of more stressful, and that will help your blood sugars. Think about using the festive period as a time to become energized and ready for the new year, as opposed to becoming exhausted. And perhaps every day do a little bit of a body check and say, how do I feel today? Do I feel good? Do I feel energized? Do I feel happy? And if the answer is no, I feel miserable, I feel sluggish, I feel terrible, then don't do what you did the day before. Do some of the other good practices and try and be well, and your blood sugars will be better. It's common sense, which is not common, but it should be. Okay, so here is another trick for diabetics. I'm going to call this the plate hack. What I want you to do when you have your Christmas meal is divide your plate into quarters, and I want you to fill up 2 quarters with starchy veg. So that's things like carrots and parsnips and things like that, and any other veg that's there, like Brussels sprouts. So that'll be half your plate. The next quarter, I want you to fill up with lean protein. So that's things like turkey, lean beef, chicken as well, I suppose, or salmon. If you are going to have chicken, try and not eat the skin. I know that's the best bit, right? But anyway, lean protein is your next quarter, and for the final quarter, put whatever you want on that. I actually don't care if it's a bag of Haribo, just stick whatever you like on there for that last quarter. But importantly, you have to eat it in that order. So you have to eat the starchy vegetables first, then you eat the protein, and then you eat the carbohydrates. And if you do it that way round, there's been lots of studies on this, but there was one at Cornell University that showed that reduces your glucose spikes by 40%, just eating it in that order. So if you do that for all of your meals, for all of Christmas and New Year, or the holidays, your blood sugars will be much better. So try that. So here's my summary of the Christmas pitfalls and what you can do to help them. Well, first of all, I've mentioned food. I mentioned food quite a lot of times over the last few weeks and months of making videos like this, but particularly around Christmas time, try and avoid the high carbohydrate things, and if you are going to have them, eat your food in a specific order as mentioned. Also, do not skip meals, and if you are going to skip meals and save your calories, make sure that you have a high protein or high fiber snack before you start your big Christmas feast. That will flatten out this roller coaster and make it more of a gentle train ride. Next is to stay hydrated. Make sure that you have lots of water, and then if you're going to drink alcohol, please drink it in moderate amounts, but also with less sugary mixers, and maybe alternate water and alcohol in between each other, because alcohol unfortunately dehydrates you, and if you become dehydrated, that puts a physiological stress on the body, which also causes your cortisol to go up, which causes your sugar to go up. So make sure you stay hydrated as well. You need to aim for good restorative sleep of a decent duration, and I know I keep going on about alcohol, but alcohol will make that worse. So do plan for good sleep and try and do some of those tricks before you get into bed at night so that you're ready for a good night's sleep. You need to move regularly, and in particular, you have to move after you've eaten something. That will reduce your blood sugars by increasing the uptake by the muscles. And lastly, you have to try and manage your stress. And I don't just mean stress from your loud next door neighbours or a family member that you can't stand. I mean all of the stresses that go around the Christmas period and the festive period. And that's things like your food stresses, your hydration stresses, sleep stresses, financial stresses, all of them. Try and manage those, and that will help your blood sugar too. Now, I'll leave you with this last thought. How many of you have been on holiday somewhere and you've spent the whole of the run up to that holiday really looking forward to getting away to that summer vacation in some lovely part of the world, lots of sunshine and far too many free beverages? Well, the problem with those holidays is you often come back feeling worse than you did when you went. And that is not the purpose of a holiday. A holiday is supposed to rejuvenate you and allow you to cope with the normal day-to-day. So think about that with Christmas and New Year. It's the same. You should be able to cope with the new year. So think of the festive period the same way. It should help you cope once you go back to work because you're feeling energized and rejuvenated. But when we overindulge, we don't sleep well, we eat poorly, and all of that stuff I've just mentioned, you actually could end up going back to the working week feeling much worse. And if you feel worse after Christmas and New Year, I guarantee your blood sugars will be worse too. So perhaps think of the festive period as a gift. It's a gift you can give yourself as a diabetic, and that gift is flattened blood sugars. But if you choose to behave in a different way, well, you just have to have a different expectation that your blood sugars will be worse, your diabetic control will be worse, and you'll be putting yourself at risk. And I'm not saying those things to shame you or to guilt you into doing it. It's just fact, but you can choose. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video despite the wind and the coughing and the cars. And if you've got anything else you would like me to make videos about, particularly along the lines of type 2 diabetes remission through lifestyle changes, please leave a comment below and a like and subscribe. I hope that is Christmas pitfalls for type 2 diabetics explained, sort of. This was not a good video. This was a difficult video to make. There's so much going on in the background. Jeez. All right, I'll see you in the next video.